Hey everybody, welcome to another Cook Along Live with me. I'm your host, I'm Robert. I'm here in California. How's everybody doing tonight? Enjoying your Friday? Looks like I'm a little fuzzy. I'm gonna go and see if I can fix that. You just zoom that a little bit like so, and we'll take another look. Good enough. Awesome. Let's let this zoom out for a real quick second. There we go. Welcome, welcome. Tonight we're making pork chops. We're going to be doing some Brussels sprouts, and we're also going to be doing some mashed potatoes. Now the cool thing is, this seems like a lot, right? You're sitting here going, oh my gosh, this is going to be one hell of a production. The cool thing is, with a little bit of planning, this is actually pretty simple. It's just 3 things that you have to do separately. However, they all take about the same amount. Well, they take enough time to where you can kind of do one and then move to the other, and then when the other's done, you can move back, and with a little bit of creative timing, you can have everything come out all at the same time. So that's what we're going to attempt to do today. So let's just get started. I've already gone ahead and prepped my Brussels sprouts, and so all I did was I took off the outer leaves and then kind of rinsed them, and then I cut them in half. That's all you got to do. I've got some water over here. It's about to get boiling, and I've salted it. Once the water is boiling, we're going to toss these in just for a couple of minutes. We just want to kind of blanch them, is what they call it. You cook them, like you par-cook them. You cook them partially all the way through, and then you strain out the water, and then you've got the Brussels sprouts mostly cooked. And then what ends up happening is you can sear them really well, and they're already cooked, so you don't have to worry about undercooking them. So that's what we're going to do once we get the water boiling. Before we get to there, I am going to go ahead and peel my potatoes. Before I peel my potatoes, I'm going to grab a bowl and fill it with water. Cool water. And as we peel the potatoes, we're going to put the potatoes into the bowl of cool water. And what that'll do is prevent them from browning. All right, just set that there. So let's see if that works. Hey, that's pretty cool. So I'm just going to peel the potatoes. They don't have to be perfect, but I do like to get most of the skin off if I can. Our water is starting to simmer. How is everybody doing today? You guys have a good week? Still sheltering in place, I imagine? I've had a pretty good week. Those of you who follow me on Facebook know that I just transitioned into a new role over at Keller Williams. I'm still a real estate agent, so I'm still selling. Yet now I'm also helping train the agents. It's a really awesome role in leadership, which is awesome. You know, moving up in the world, which is something that I've wanted to do. I love training people, as you can tell since I'm doing these cook-alongs. I think it's a lot of fun to help people realize their potential and kind of figure out what they're doing. Somebody type something so that I know that the chat is working. And we're going to get that down to high, because otherwise this is going to be a real boring cook-along live with just me talking. So some people do like their skins on their mashed potatoes. If you do, don't peel these as much. Just leave, I don't know, maybe a quarter of the skin back on the potato, and then when you mash them, it'll be nicely incorporated. If you don't like the skins, if you'd like a smoother potato, kind of like me, go ahead and peel off as much as you can. A little bit of skin's not going to hurt you. Now the type of potato that we're using is a Yukon Gold, and the reason that we're using Yukon Golds, somebody texted me and I can't see my phone, so let me see what that says. 2 seconds while I check my Facebook messages and see if somebody's telling me, no, I cannot hear you. Chat is not working. All right. So at least we figured that out. That's super annoying. So what we will do is I am going to minimize this, put it over here, and I'll just focus on Facebook chat today. I have producer, and I should be able to see everybody chatting in here. Or not. So I use a program called Restream, and what it lets me do is it lets me stream to like YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch all at the same time. The problem is, looks like their Facebook chat is not working today. Or their chat at all is not working, which is not fun. See, it says that it's connected, and well, while we're waiting on that, let me do this. I can see what you guys are saying on my post. I can see the live chat now. I can't see YouTube, and I can't see Twitch. Sorry guys, I can't open 3 websites at once. But I will keep up on this. Awesome, happy Friday, can't wait to see the mashed potatoes. There we go, now I can see stuff. You guys can't see the chat, I'm sorry. But I will try to read everything as it comes through. Largest pork chop, yeah, I got it at Whole Foods, believe it or not. Awesome, glad you guys have the ingredients. New camera view is awesome. And, oh, right, because I didn't put it back on, it's gone. So give me 2 seconds here again. Sorry about the technical difficulties today. This is just what happens. There we go. So now you got picture in picture, I assume, and we should be good to go. Suck-ass week, yeah, this week was not good at all. Yeah, Michael, definitely. I am Southern California Regional Tech Trainer, which means that I work with leadership, and in the market centers, I work with the agents to help them understand the technology that we have at Keller Williams. We actually develop our own technology for our CRM and all of that stuff. And since I'm a pretty good agent and also very good with technology, it's a pretty good fit for me. I'm going to have a lot of fun. It's going to be a great role. I'm staying local. I don't plan on moving down to Southern California. I can fly myself down there. I have a pilot certificate, and or I can fly commercial if I need to. Southern California is not that far away. So we're just going to keep peeling these potatoes. This will save us a little bit of time later. But you got to spend the time now. And again, the purpose of these cook-alongs is to have you guys cooking along at the same time that I'm cooking. So I don't want to get too much prepped before we get started, because I'm hoping that some of you guys have the ingredients and are actually cooking along with me. And so I want to kind of go at real time and show you how long it takes. Everything that I'm planning should take around an hour. That's kind of what I'm targeting here for all of the food that I'm planning and putting together. Guys, I can't see my text messages. I understand you're texting me, but my phone is one of my cameras. So if I go and look at my phone, I lose that camera. I do have a solution for that coming soon, but Amazon shipping is a little bit slow. I have an older camcorder that I can use, and I'm waiting on another tripod to arrive so that I can set it up. But for now, this is what we're going with. Go ahead and get your oven preheated if you don't mind. Preheat it to 425. That's what we're going to be cooking our pork at once we get it seared, and we're good to go. Yeah, you guys can all see the Facebook chat, but you're not going to be able to see it in the actual stream. That's the problem. It's not showing me in my streaming software, which means that it's not relaying it to the actual video. So I have to have my browser open instead of just using my streaming software, which makes it a little bit more difficult. Yeah, Felicia, I know it's a little bit later for you. I know it's 9 o'clock over in Georgia, but oh, hey, and I'm drinking a Merlot. I know You're not supposed to drink Merlot, but I got this. Somebody gave it to me. I don't remember who. I'm sorry. So if it was you, it's a great Merlot. Robert Hall, Paso Robles Merlot, and it is delicious. Bourbon would have been good too. I might switch to that a little bit later. So we got our potatoes peeled. Those are all good to go. First thing that we're going to do is we're going to get our Brussels sprouts blanched. So I've got boiling water over here. It's been salted, and you want to basically salt it just until it's almost not quite as salty as the ocean, but you want it to be a little bit salty because that's how you're getting your salt into your Brussels sprouts. That's how you're seasoning things. We're going to take our Brussels sprouts. We're going to toss them straight into the water, and we're literally just going to keep them in there for like 2 minutes. I've got a strainer over there, so once the 2 minutes is up, I'm going to take them over and strain them out. And what that's going to do is you're partially cooking them. You're cooking them most of the way through, but not all the way through. And we're going to take those Brussels sprouts and we're actually going to sear them a little bit later. We're just getting them prepped for that. When you sear the Brussels sprouts, if you just sear them straight onto the pan, there's no way you're going to cook them all the way through. This kind of cheats around that. So while we're waiting on that, I am going to be putting them in the water now. So I'm actually going to move my potatoes out and just put them in the little bowl that the Brussels sprouts were in. And in the couple of minutes that those guys are going to be going, they're not going to brown. I'm also going to grab a couple of ice cubes. I like to make my own clear ice so that when I'm drinking whiskey or bourbon or any kind of mixed drink, I don't have any cloudy ice. This is all totally clear. It's a little foggy right now. I'll actually put it up here. But when you put it in the water or after it thaws for a little bit, it goes completely clear. And it's a lot of water and a lot of no flavor. Cool, so these guys are done. I'm gonna go ahead and drain them, and then we're gonna put them right into that ice water bath. And what that's gonna do is stop them from cooking anymore so they don't get soggy. There we go. There we go. Awesome. Those are done. We're going to get some more water boiling because we're going to start boiling our potatoes. Now, pro tip, when you're making potatoes and you're boiling them, put them in the pan first. And what you're going to do is you're going to put in cold water and just barely cover the potatoes. You don't need any more water than what covers the potatoes. And the reason I put water in the pan first is so I don't scorch the bottom of the potatoes because it's hot. It just had boiling water in it. There we go. Just covering the potatoes. Back on the burner. We're going to get that going. We're going to, of course, salt our water here. And you definitely want a bit of salt. Because again, this is how you're starting to season the potatoes. You have to add way more salt later on in the cooking process. If you season them as you go and kind of get the water in the medium that they're cooking in seasoned, you don't have to add as much later. It's also a more mellow flavor. So we're going to get that boiling. While we're getting this boiling, we're going to come over to another pot that I have over on my burner over there. It's actually a gas burner, and I have heavy cream over in there. We're going to get that to simmering. You don't want it to boil. You just want to get it right to where it simmers. And we're going to take a couple of garlic cloves, smash them, and put them in. Garlic flavor is fat soluble, and cream is all fat. So what you're doing is you're putting this into the cream. You're infusing the cream as it cooks with the flavor of garlic. So when you add it to the potatoes later, you're going to basically just be putting garlic cream into the potatoes. So you don't have to worry about chopping anything or mincing anything. The garlic itself will flavor the cream, which in turn will flavor the potatoes. And we got some butter for that as well. Actually, speaking of the butter, we're going to go ahead and put the butter in the cream as well. So let me get the cream started. And I'm going to put it on like a medium-high heat just until it starts bubbling. And the crazy thing with cream, now that I'm here looking at you, it's probably boiling over. That's a joke, but you got to keep an eye on the cream because as soon as it starts to boil, as soon as it starts to simmer, it starts boiling over really quick. You know what? I don't know if this is a 2-pound. I think it might be like, I think they were each a pound, to be honest with you, or maybe a little bit over, because it was, I paid just a little bit over what it was I basically paid double what it was per pound. So I think each one is like a pound and a quarter. And you want about, let's see, let's do 2 to 3 tablespoons of butter. We're just going to toss this straight in the cream while it warms up. It's going to melt into the cream, which is perfect. Save this for later. I'll just put it over here in that bowl. Grab my little towel. So we got the cream warming up over there. We got the potatoes here about to start boiling. I'm going to go ahead and just kind of pound on those. I don't need you anymore. I'll just go ahead and peel my garlic. I give it a little light tap with my knife. That makes the skin come off really easy. You do crush it slightly, but you don't pulverize it. And now I actually do want to crush it. So something like that. You definitely want to open up as much of it as you can. That's good. And then this is all going to go into the cream and butter while that warms up. All right, good. Cool. So we got the potatoes boiling, got our Brussels sprouts ready. What we're going to do with the Brussels sprouts is we're going to actually pull them out of the water now. The point of the cold ice water was to make them stop cooking. If you just boiled them and just put them on the work surface, there's still enough residual heat in the Brussels sprout that it's going to cook more and get kind of mushy. So what we're going to do is we're just going to pull them out of the water. You want to kind of pat them down a little bit, like upside down like this basically, over the water, just to get any water out, any extra water out of the little cabbage looking leaf layers. And we're going to put them cut side down. And what that's going to do, the paper towel is going to wick some of that water out of there. Remember, in one of the other cooking videos that we did, water is the enemy of a good color on whatever you're trying to sear because it creates steam, and the steam creates a barrier between the food and the hot surface. So you want to get these pretty dry. And the paper towel is going to help a lot with that. Potatoes are boiling. You do not want this to boil. You actually want to turn this down to a simmer as well. Whether it's simmering or whether it's boiling, the water is still at 100 degrees Celsius, and it's going to cook the potato all the way through. If you have too much agitation, the potatoes are going to start kind of falling apart when they get cooked. We don't want that. Potatoes are going to cook for about 15-20 minutes. These are small baby potatoes, so they're going to cook pretty quick compared to like a full potato. That's part of the reason that we're using the Yukon Golds or the small gold potatoes. The other reason is they are a more waxy potato, less starchy, so your potatoes are going to be more creamy and less gloopy. There we go. I'll just get these guys good, and I don't have enough room, so sacrificial Brussels sprout. 2 of them are sacrificial. They're good. Cool. So that towel kind of wick the water out. While we're waiting on that, I'm going to move my pork chop, and we're going to start chopping our shallot. Shallot's going to go into the Brussels sprouts. And for that many Brussels sprouts, I probably want that guy. Got a couple more shallots for later. You're still going a little too rough, buddy. Calm down. Calm down a little bit more. There we go. That's good. So shallots are very similar to cleaning an onion. You don't want to like mash the hell out of it. It's actually pretty simple. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna kind of cut off the top right here. So just like that. You lose a little bit of onion, but not too much. And from here, we're just going to kind of cut it right down the middle. Like so. Grab all the papery skin, and then we're just gonna peel. I like to peel the first layer off because it also pulls the skin off, and it's way easier than trying to separate the dry skin from the first layer. And usually the first layer has some kind of unwanted bits on it anyway. So it's just a really quick, easy way to get that outer layer of skin off. Now for this guy, this one is the more bulbous one. This is the one that's a little bit more tall than it is long. We're going to cut down the length of this once, and I guess I'll do it again. Not all the way through, you want to keep it together. And from here, we're going to cut vertically down it 2 or 3 times. We're going to get nice little cubed pieces of shallot. And then that's our waist. Same thing with this one. This one here is already thin. We don't need to do any of the horizontal cuts. We're just going to cut down vertically. And we want these to be chunky. You don't want this to be like super fine because we're going to be cooking it in a pan with a bunch of other stuff. You don't want it to like fall apart on you. So I'm looking at like quarter inch to ½ inch slices. And there we go. Again, that's the only waste you have. Go ahead and get that cut off. That is Kerrygold butter. Yes, yes it is. I love Kerrygold. I think it's delicious. So creamy. Oh, wow. That's awesome, Cindy. That's crazy. And yes, a sharper knife is better than a duller knife. You have much less of a chance of the knife moving while you're cutting through things, and you're less likely to cut yourself. I'm going to go ahead and dump out this water because I don't need it anymore. And I'll just set him right there. I'm going to grab a couple more cloves of garlic. And I'm over here looking at my cream. The butter is melted. The cream is starting to get bubbly. Don't want to forget about him. Don't you forget about cream. While you're not looking, it's bubbling all over the counter, baby. Okay, so we're going to take our garlic here. And this one here, we're going to do the same thing that we did with the shallots. We're going to just chop it up into cubes. You don't need to make it super small. We're going to be sautéing all of this. And if you cut the garlic too small, it's going to burn. You don't want to burn the garlic. If you do make it small, just make sure you put it in like right at the end, right before you put the rest, like the Brussels sprouts in. But I want nice chunky garlic in this. Same thing with the shallots. I kind of try and find the flat side. There might be 2 flat sides. There might only be the 1 flat side. I put it down on the flat side. I make 1 horizontal cut. And then I'll make a couple of vertical cuts. Again, I'm going for like, I don't know, maybe 1/8 of an inch for the garlic. And then same thing. I'm just going to cut this way. Always throw away the little woody bit. I guess you don't have to, but I always do. And then same thing with this one. We've got our it kind of looks like a V, I guess, if you kind of like come down to it. I'm just going to pick a side. This one's a little bit thicker, so I'm going to add 2 cuts. And then a couple of vertical cuts here. Same thing. Chop, chop, chop. Just get as much of the garlic off as you can. This is all going to be part of our Brussels sprouts. Toss that woody bit. I'm going to go and check on my cream. Looks like it's starting to bubble. Not quite there yet. The cool thing is the time it takes for the cream to warm up and start bubbling and infuse with the garlic flavor is about the same amount of time it's going to take for your potatoes to cook. And you might also be wondering, well, you know, why are you cooking the cream? Why don't you just like mash the butter up or garlic press it directly into the potatoes? You're going to get a sharper garlic flavor if you do it that way. And if you put cold cream into hot potatoes, you're cooling down the whole dish. If you're warming up the cream, and while you're warming up the cream and infusing it with garlic flavor, you're going to get a much subtler garlic flavor, which is almost a little bit sweet, really tasty. And when you're adding hot cream to hot potato, you're not cooling down the potato. So everything stays nice. I'm going to give this a real quick stir. Cream is one of those things that, you know, as you cook it, it kind of forms a little bit of a film on top. So by stirring it, you break up that film. And you help some of the moisture, the water moisture, escape. I'll leave that spoon over here. That is looking delicious. I'm going to check my potatoes. Easiest way to check your potatoes and see how well they're cooked. Insert a knife. And when it goes through very easily with just the weight of the knife, it's done. And I made a mistake. I actually wanted to start my pork chop, and I didn't. So here's what we're going to do. We are going to grab the lid of this guy, cover it, and we're going to move him off to the side here for a second because it's not going to take very long to get our pork seared. We're going to turn this on high, and we're going to grab our olive oil. Oh, my olive oil is already out. How convenient. Grab your olive oil and you're going to pour it just a little bit. You don't need much. You do want enough to cover the bottom of the pan, but you don't want like a puddle of olive oil in here. There we go. Cream is boiling. I'm going to turn that down. And I just want this to simmer and keep simmering. That's looking good. Pan is starting to heat up. While we're waiting for the pan to heat up, we're going to take our pork chop. And I've already put some salt on here and let it sit out, kind of like what we did with the steak. I didn't leave it uncovered in the fridge. You don't really need to do that with pork. I just seasoned it about 30 minutes before I started just because I had a bunch of stuff going on and I wanted to make sure I didn't forget it. But if you season it ahead of time, it's going to absorb more of that salt or the seasoning. You don't need to put pepper on it early because it doesn't absorb any of the pepper. So we're going to crack pepper on it fresh right now. And we don't need any salt, but we are going to put some pepper on here. Also, pepper is one of those things that when you crack it, you're breaking open a little bit of a berry. And whatever oils the berry has in it start to kind of evaporate. So if you crack pepper over something early, you're actually losing some of the flavor of the pepper. The aromatics and the flavor kind of evaporate. So do that as fresh as you can. Taking a look at my cream to make sure it's not boiling over. And I'm going to do something kind of fancy. I'm just going to do like 1/2 inch, very gentle slices through the outer fat layer. Have you ever cooked meat where as you're cooking it, it curls up? And then one side is nice and like golden brown, and then the other side, there's no way to get it golden brown because it's basically a curved, curved surface and doesn't want you to cook it. This is how you kind of avoid that. By cutting through the fat layer. You don't want to cut all the way through, but by opening up some of the fat layer, when the meat cooks, it can actually kind of flex a little bit, expand and contract, and not get curved. So a little pro tip for you. It doesn't take very long. There we are, we're done with that. I'll give that a wash in a second. And of course, we'll put some cracked black pepper on here. Good to go. We can see that our pan is ready to go. Super, super hot oil, which is what you want. We're going to start with our fat side. Fat side down first. And just start with the top. And make sure you get that sizzling. Now you want this to be as flat on here as you can get it, and you want to kind of push down on it a little bit. And what you're doing is you're creating a sear on that side, and it's also rendering out the fat. This isn't going to take too long. There we go, we get a nice sear on the meat, or on the fat, I should say. So now we're going to roll it over a little bit and get another sear on this side. And if your pork chop isn't this gigantic, you can actually use a cloth and hold it on if it's like spattering you and hitting you in the hand or whatever. Cool, so we got good color on that side. I'm going to switch over to my tongs. Get a little bit of color on the back here. All we're really doing here is getting color on the pork. It's going to go in the oven, which we've had preheating up to 425, and that's what's going to cook it all the way through. All right, there we go. Slide one down. I like to put a little bit of weight on it or pressure on it to make sure that it's in contact with the entire pan. And we're just going to do like 1 or 2 minutes per side. And you can actually kind of see, if you look at this side of the meat, if you look down at the bottom, right up against where it's on the pan, you're going to start seeing the sides of the meat start to brown right along the edge. And that's when you know that that side is more or less brown, and you can flip it. So we should be good on that side. We are. And we're going to do the same thing on this side. And you'll notice my pork isn't curling. If you get a super thin piece of pork, you might still have that curl effect. There's not really much you can do about that if it's a really thin piece of pork, but cutting the fat does help. And then putting pressure on it, or just making sure that it's always in contact with the pan, that's how you get the nice uniform searing. All right. Bottom of this guy is looking a little bit seared. Let's flip him. There are a lot of people who say, only turn it once. It doesn't matter. If you're a purist, okay, you can try and do that. I have no problem turning it. Once you've turned it, you're committed. Turn it, move on. If you need to get more sear on it, turn it again. All right, there we go. Now, you can take this whole pan and toss it in the oven. I'm not going to do that. The reason I'm not going to do that is because I have a cool little tray that I'm going to transfer this to. Looks good, and then this whole thing is going to go in the oven. And what I'm going to do is I am going to use all of the stuff that's here left over from the pork to sear my Brussels sprouts, but we're not there yet. We'll get there in a second. Move this over here. We'll go back to our potatoes. All right. We're going to get this boiling, and then we're going to take the top off and let it simmer. Still pretty warm, which is good. They actually might have cooked through. Let's check on that. Nope, still a little resistance. We're gonna let those guys go. Just a little bit. Move this stuff off. Wash my hands, open a window because I got smoke all through my house. I'm surprised my smoke alarm's not going off, to be honest with you. Oh, there we go. But you know, that's the fun of cooking at home. Wash our hands, wash our knife. Wash the big knife as well. All right, you're going. And then we're gonna get you down so that you're simmering again. Perfect. Now this is ready for the wash. Into my little bucket it goes. And fresh towel. Got one clean knife. This knife needs to be washed real quick. What do you guys have planned for the weekend? Anything fun? What's the weather supposed to be where you're at? Here in California, it's supposed to be nice and warm. I know some of you are in Florida, Georgia, other parts of the country. What's the weather like where you're at? Still warm? I'm assuming everybody, unless you're in the southern hemisphere, is moving into summer. Go ahead and get that going. Boiling again. Is it super humid and stuff in Savannah right now already, or is that still a month or two away? I remember that as soon as it got humid over there, I used to hate it. Above 99. Yeah, you guys were saying it was 109 the other day? The other thing for the Brussels sprouts, we got the Brussels sprouts, we got shallots, we got garlic. We're also going to be using pancetta. If you have bacon, you can use bacon. Pancetta gives you a little bit bigger chunks, so I like it a little bit better. And I got the pre-cut because I couldn't find a block. Usually I like to actually cut my own and make like half-inch cubes, really big chunks of pancetta to go with the Brussels sprouts. Wasn't able to do that. Wasn't able to find pancetta to take care of that. So unfortunately, I just got to go with what I got. That's kind of part of the fun of cooking, is you get to go with the flow. Something doesn't work, what is wrong with you? You just got to adapt. We are getting there. Everyone except for that really big one in the middle is pretty much done. We're going to do the same thing with the potatoes, except we're not going to, the same thing that we did with the Brussels sprouts with the potatoes. We're going to strain them, get all the water out. We are not going to put them in an ice bath. You actually want them to go right back into the hot pot, because what happens is the potatoes actually continue to steam, and that steam helps evaporate the moisture and dry them out. That's what you want when you're making the mashed potatoes. So we put our pork chop in there. We're going to be getting the mashed potatoes more or less ready to go, and all of this is about to start coming together, and here's where the magic happens. Once that center one is done, we're going to move forward on that. Brussels sprouts are ready to go. We're going to move the pan back over here, and we will get cooking. You're being really strange today, dude. Usually 220 is where this guy starts simmering, and I've got him up to 320, so not sure what the deal is. Yeah, whatever. Again, just got to kind of go with the flow. Huge pool party. Yeah, right. Oh, awesome. Zoom hanging. Oh, yeah, bridal showers. got a really good friend, and she's about to have a baby, and she can't have any of her baby stuff, and so definitely not fun, unfortunately. Oh my gosh, I want Nutella stuffed cookies. All right, Michael, I'm coming over. It's just that simple. Wear a mask, put on a hazmat suit, because I'm about to fly over. Check on that potato, and he is good to go. So again, I'm basically just going to take this. We're going over to the sink. These are just getting drained really quickly in a colander. And once all the water's done, they're going right back into the pot. I'm leaving the pot open, and I'm just going to let these guys hang out and dry out. I want them to steam. I want them to dry out. And I'll put them right there. Yes, I know. Now I'm going to go grab my pan that I cooked the pork in. And I'm going to get out some of that excess oil. For that, I will use a little mason jar that I have here. And what I'm going to do is let the oil solidify, dump out the liquid, and then towel out the oil. There we go. You never want to dump oil down the drain because it solidifies and then you've got a clogged drain. If it doesn't solidify here in your sink and it does actually make it down to the sewer, it just causes havoc for the city workers. So not a good thing to toss oil down the drain. Cool, so we got this going. You can see there's a couple of little brown bits in it, which is awesome. That's what we want. We're gonna turn this back up to, I'm gonna say medium high. And let this warm up a bit. While we're waiting for that to warm up, I'm gonna take one itty bitty piece of shallot and put it in here. Once it starts kind of sizzling and jumping around, we'll dump in the rest. Shouldn't take very long. These guys are steaming. That's perfect. We're going to get these guys going first. Now I'm going to take all of my Brussels off of the paper towel. You'll notice that the paper towel is now completely soaked through. And the Brussels sprouts still have a little bit of water on them, but they're not dripping wet, which is exactly, you don't want them dripping wet. We're just going to put them on the cutting board, and now we're going to do cut side up. What that'll do is help kind of evaporate any of the remaining moisture while we're getting this ready. And I don't know if you can tell, but my little piece of pancetta is starting to kind of bubble. Or pancetta. It's a shallot. Not pancetta. And again, the reason we want these to be not wet anymore is because you want to sear them, and if you have any moisture, or if you have a significant amount of moisture, what you're going to end up doing is you're going to be putting a layer of steam underneath. And that kind of shields the food from being seared. All right, awesome. That's ready to go. So what I'm going to do is put in my shallots first. And that's the sound you want to hear. You want to hear a sizzle. And let me grab spatula. This might be a little bit too hot. And what this is doing, what the onions are doing, the onions are actually kind of acidic. So all of the little burned bits on the bottom of the pork that you had in here are going to be coming up, and they're actually going to be flavoring the onions, which is a neat little trick. And you just kind of want to soften them. We're not caramelizing these. We're not like breaking them down all the way. We just want to get these guys a little bit soft. They're going to be picking up a lot of that pork flavor from the chop that we had in here earlier. I've got this on like medium, closer to medium, but medium high. So at this point, what I want to do is I actually want to put in the pancetta. For this many Brussels sprouts, I might put in like a third of what I've got in here, maybe. All right, so maybe I used half. Oops. And what I'm doing here is now I'm introducing more oil, more fat into the pan because the pancetta has a lot of fat on it. So as you're cooking it, it's going to break down, it's going to render. You're going to get more of that bacony flavor. So you're almost layering pork flavor on top of pork flavor, which makes these Brussels sprouts super good if you're making them with pork. And we're just going to kind of keep the pan moving. You don't need a lot of heat here. You're just trying to break things down. You're not trying to like burn everything. There we go. I'm going to let those kind of cook for just a second. Now my potatoes are still steaming, and you'll notice that they're drying out quite a bit, which is good. I'm not mashing them yet because as soon as I mash them, they're going to start losing all of their heat. As a potato, as a unit, it's holding on to all that heat. It's drying out. Once I mash those down, all the heat starts coming out. And so our boiling cream mixture over there is going to help with that. It's going to bring back some heat. You don't want to start mashing those too early. Pancetta is going. And the reason I don't want too much heat on this is because it's going to take a second to get some sear on the Brussels sprouts. And I'm going to crank the heat when I get the sear on the Brussels sprouts. So I want this to kind of render out and give up its fat and cook a little bit or warm up a little bit as well. But I don't want it to get too cooked, too burned, or too colored right now, because as soon as I crank up the heat, if it's already cooked, it's going to be way overburnt. It's going to be like black by the time we get these done. So you just kind of want to break these down. You don't want too much heat. You do want it sizzling, you do want it bubbling, but you don't want to be putting a lot of color on everything. That looks good. Let's go ahead and grab our garlic. Put that in here. I'll put in a little bit more heat on this after adding the garlic. I'm going to start sizzling a bit more aggressively, which is what I want. And I'm really just going to keep the garlic in here for like maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes at the most, just to kind of soften it, get some of the flavor infused into the oil that's in there. Then we're going to add our Brussels. Cindy, you would make your bacon roses. Cindy makes really good bacon roses. Apparently she makes them in the microwave, which I used to hate the microwave, and I have come to appreciate the fact that it is actually pretty cool. I will still always cook over microwaving something, yet you can make really good bacon in the microwave. And she makes bacon roses where I think she rolls them in parchment paper, puts them in the microwave to cook them, and they come out nice and crispy, nice and well cooked. I haven't tried it yet, but it might be coming soon. I'm going to basically clump this all up into the middle as much as I can and just kind of create a little mound like this. And what I'm going to be doing is putting my Brussels sprouts around the outside. These are going to be still kind of leaching their oil out, and they're going to be keeping the Brussels sprouts moist or oiled and ready to go. And then what I like to do is I like to lay it out in a clockwise pattern. I start at 12 o'clock, first Brussels sprout in, make sure that it's down and flat, second one, third one, and what's going to happen is when it's time to start flipping these to make sure that they're browned or crispy, I know exactly which one I put in first. So I know exactly which one to start with. And there's some kind of party going on outside now. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but there's a motorcycle and someone's blaring music. I live on a really fun street. So see, at this point, you'll notice that my bacon is starting to kind of crisp up a little bit. And that's why we didn't cook it very high to begin with. Because once this starts happening, your bacon is going to start really, really cooking fast. I'm going to make a little bit of room. Put in a couple more sprouts. There we go. Now I'm going to just kind of try to keep this kind of moving around, but it's really, really difficult. Turn this back down to like medium high. Now another thing, if these were completely wet Brussels sprouts and I put them in here, this whole pan would have been spattering all over the place and spitting oil everywhere because oil and water don't mix, and when you have hot oil and hot water, again, you're like instantly vaporizing the water. So what happens is you get that pop, and as it vaporizes, it sends oil everywhere. So if you've properly drained your Brussels sprouts, you're not going to get that. The Brussels sprouts are going to sizzle because you're not cooking the surface, but you're not going to get all that spitting and spattering that you get when you have a wet product going into a oil. I have no idea, Felicia. You know, my neighborhood, who knows what's going on out there? I assume everybody is practicing social distancing. And that's the best I can do. So I'm gonna use my tongs and I'm gonna flip over my first Brussels sprout and see what it looks like. And so that's kind of what it looks like. So if that's the color you like, you're done. If you want it to get a little bit more brown, you're gonna let it cook a little bit more. And you'll notice that my bacon is starting to kind of burn. So we can just kind of mix it up a little bit because we're not very far off on those sprouts. Give this just another like 30 seconds to a minute maybe. It's a law that if you pick up a pair of tongs, you got to put them together. Just a thing. All right, I'm happy with that. So I'm going to flip over my Brussels sprouts. And if you kind of go at the same cadence that you put them in at, they're all going to be cooked at about the same color. And we already parboiled these guys, so we know that they're cooked through. If you are short for time and you aren't able to parboil them, what you could do at this point, if you have a lid for your cooking utensil, pour a little bit of water, like maybe a quarter cup of water right in the middle, and cover it with a lid, and you'll actually like insta-steam them. The problem with that is a lot of times the crust on your Brussels sprouts will kind of like go away. It won't be crispy anymore. There we go. Got some good looking Brussels sprouts here. And our sprouts are basically done. I'm going to give them a real quick sear on this side. Mix around some of my pancetta and bacon and, well, pancetta is bacon. My pancetta and garlic and shallots. And all I'm doing is trying to put a little bit of a sear on the outside just to make them kind of like crispy, I guess. Another way that you could do this is you could actually cook all of the bacon and stuff first, take it out of the pot, and then after you take it out of the pot, or the pan, sear all your Brussels sprouts and then put all the bacon and stuff back in. You don't have to do that, but that's one way to keep what you cooked as far as the bacon and everything clean and separate, and then cook all the Brussels sprouts, and then everything's cooked the way you want it. Now I'm just going to kind of mix these guys together. And the Brussels sprouts are good to go. Stop cooking on this guy. I'll move this over to here and let it hang out. The pan, since I'm using a cast iron pan, it's going to hold some of that heat, and it'll keep everything in there warm. There we go. And now we're going to go back to our potatoes. We're waiting on our pork to finish cooking through. It's a thick piece of pork, so I think we'll be fine. Potato time. I'm just going to mash them right in the pan. As I mash them, they're going to start steaming a little bit more. These guys are nice and dry. You want to do all of your mashing here before you put in your cream and butter. All right. Don't want to over mash them. Now we'll go grab our cream and butter mixture here. Turn off the heat. Get this mixed. Now I'm going to pour in a little bit at a time, but I'm going to start with a pretty good pour. And then I'm just going to kind of mix it through with a spoon to start, because that's what I happen to have in my hand. There we go. And if you want a little bit more creamy, you can add more cream mixture. And you can also use your masher to go through one more time, like so. Awesome. A little bit more cream and butter and garlic. There we go. Nice creamy whipped mashed potatoes. That's how I like my mashed potato. Taste. Subtle garlic flavor. Very tasty. Needs a bit of salt. There we go. I'm going to do one more thing with my mashed potatoes, and I forgot to grab this before my cook along. I am going to go and grab some fresh chives from my garden. I will be right back. I love chives with my mashed potatoes. So, I am going to cut some of these guys. I think chives, you know, that subtle oniony flavor that you get from them, they just elevate a dish. It's so good. Move this off of there. Grab our chives over here, move our masher because we're done with it. Give these just a rough chop. Again, they don't need to be super small. They don't need to be very, you know, uniform even. We're just going to chop through them just like that. And into the potato. Stir them through. Yum, yum, yum. All right. Oh. Oh, man. Once again, you guys don't get to partake. I'm sorry. One of these days we'll get to hang out, and I'll get to do a lot of cooking. So, we're going to start plating. I'm going to go ahead and pull my pork out of the oven. Turn off the oven. Woo, pork looks good. I am not going to use this because that looks really hot. Ooh, yeah. That's a pork chop. That's not a pork chop. This is a pork chop. All right. So, I'm going to start with my mashed potatoes. I have enough here for 2 people, so this is actually going to be leftovers for tomorrow. And and I love it when that happens, especially when it comes to potatoes. We're just going to go ahead and make a little mound in the middle, maybe a little bit offset. Something like so. Now we can grab our Brussels sprouts, and that's pretty hot, so I will use my handy dandy thing, and I'll grab a new spoon. And what I want to do, spin it around this way so y'all can see it. Oops. I'm gonna kind of put these on one side. I'm gonna let whatever sticks to them stick to them, but I'm not gonna go out of my way to like pick up the bacon and shallots. If they happen to be on the spoon, cool. If they don't, that's fine. I can always adjust that later. There we are. Put the nice burned one over there because that always looks good. The cool thing about these Brussels sprouts is they are not mushy. If you've ever had Brussels sprouts that you don't like because they're just mushy and kind of gross, these are the exact opposite of that. They're firm, a little bit al dente, like they're soft, but they're not mushy. Here's our generous helping of Brussels sprouts. So see, now I can actually come in here and grab some of this bacon, the pancetta and the shallots and the garlic. I can just kind of top right over, like so. And I'm going to be cheeky and put some on my mashed potatoes as well. Good, I'm going to kind of do this, and I'm going to show you why in just a second. Push these guys this way. It was 100% so I could lick my fingers. Grab my pork chop. Which side looks better? I like this side better. So I got my pork chop. Now this is a gigantic pork chop. This is a gigantic piece of meat. Yet I can put it right there. And check that out. You do know that when you make food look nice, when you present it well, it actually tastes better. That is a proven fact. Now what I'm going to do is I've got some balsamic vinegar. You can make a balsamic vinaigrette if you want to. I'm just going to be putting a light drizzle of balsamic vinegar over my Brussels sprouts, just like that. And if you want, you can shave some Parmesan on there as well. But this is already a pretty epic dinner, so I think that might be taking it a step too far. At least for me. So, there we go. We've got beautiful pork chop, mashed potatoes, Brussels sprouts, all came out around the same time. That's how you do it. You just kind of try to figure out what the cooking times of each thing are, and then all you do is plan accordingly. Hey, the Brussels sprouts are going to be, like, there are 2 or 3 steps that I can do. One of these steps I can take, and I can do it in advance, and then I can let them sit, and then as they're sitting I can do a couple of other things, and then I can come back to the Brussels sprouts. Like, you just kind of think about, give whatever you're cooking a little bit of thought ahead of time, and you can definitely plan and execute something like this. Huge, crazy looking dinner. Wasn't all that crazy to make. It takes a little bit of planning and a little bit of forethought. So, I hope you guys enjoyed. It was a lot of fun cooking with y'all. Thank you so much. Dog. Nope, that's Dave. Dave GT27. I can't read because this is all fuzzy, but that is not. Sorry that the Facebook comments weren't working. The Facebook chat was not working with the stream today. I don't even know if YouTube was. I can't look at 3 different chat streams at once, which is why I like using the restream chat. But apparently it was having issues tonight. So apologies for that. Thank you so much for all of you guys who came over and actually did watch. This was a lot of fun to cook, and hopefully you guys were cooking along. If you did, take a picture, leave a comment on this live stream. You can definitely go do that. I would love to see what you guys do. And in the future, if you guys take if you guys watch any of the live streams and actually cook along with them and make whatever I'm making, by all means, come back, post it to that video so I can see what you guys are doing, because I love it when I can empower and inspire other people to do stuff that's really cool, but not super difficult. And so I'm hoping that you guys definitely run with this. Take it and run. Any questions about this? I'm happy to answer any questions you guys might have in chat. Apart from the obvious ones, yes, I did turn off my burner, and yes, I did turn off the oven. So those are all done. Those are all good to go. What would you like me to cook on a future live stream? As I pick bacon bits and drink wine, because that's what I do. I'm thinking about doing like a fish night. I haven't done salmon yet or anything like that. Usually pretty simple, usually fairly easy. Yet a lot of people have trouble with it. So happy to do salmon. We've done cioppino. I could do chicken cacciatore. It's very similar to cioppino, except you use chicken instead. Oh man, Dave, whatever. I'd love to see what you cook. I always think that everything is awesome. Next week, I'll try and come up with something else. If you guys have any suggestions or have any questions, by all means, put them on the video. I'm happy to help. So, you guys have a great evening. I'm gonna eat some awesome meat. Later, guys.